Hey, everybody, welcome to the Ultra High Net Worth Clients Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Broadhead. Today, we have the pleasure of talking with Jeff Gitterman. Hey, Jeff, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, Chris. My name's Jeff Gitterman. I am the co-founder and partner at Gitterman Wealth Management and CEO of Gitterman Asset Management. And we are a firm focused pretty religiously on sustainable investing, impact investing, and climate risk. And we've been focused on that for the last 8 or 9 years. I've been in the business 30 something years. I lost count somewhere along the line. And a lot of our clients are Ivy League faculty and educators. And it's been a great practice and a great group of clients to work with.
Awesome. We're definitely going to dig into all of that as well as your TV show and book. But I like to start at the beginning. Can you tell us how you got involved in this wild industry?
Yeah, I grew up with parents that didn't have much money. And my uncle was a life insurance agent, and he used to work as many days into the month as he needed to pay his bills and have some spending money. So some months that was 3 weeks, some months that was 3 days. And I just watched his life versus my father's life, who was in retail and was laid off regularly during the 70s and the recessions. And I just decided that I wanted to have my own freedom about my work, and I wanted to help people with money at an early age, and really pursued that. Really, before I was even out of college, I was interning at Merrill Lynch and started my career there back in '86.
Nice. When you were 2 years old.
I wish.
That's great. And that definitely feeds into your focus on ESG, which we will definitely dig into. I want to understand more about how and why you made your primary focus high net worth individuals and higher education professionals. What was it about those groups that interested you?
Yeah, so 1990, I started working for Equitable, and there was a person that came in to give a course, Richard Wildman, and it was target marketing was the name of the course. And you took a psychological profile test, and it told you what group of people you would be good to work with. There were about 38 people in the class. I think I was the only one that actually listened to Richard's advice and counsel. But he said I would be really good working with teachers. I had a very educational focus and style. And at the same time, I was reading Marketing to the Affluent by Dr. Thomas Stanley. I can't remember. I remember all this stuff from 30 years ago. Anyway, I was reading Marketing to the Affluent by Thomas Stanley, great book. And he said, look for people that are dual income earners. Look for people, in other words, husband and wife both work. Look for people that are members of associations that gather in groups on a regular basis. And those people are usually the most affluent people, rather than the doctors and lawyers and other people that a lot of other financial advisors back in the day thought would be the way to make a career. So between both advice, they kind of literally, met and converged on each other. And I made a decision in 1990 to start working with college professors.
Nice. And what's the best way to kind of find college professors and convince them that you're the person they want to work with?
Well, they're really easy to find because they don't hide. They hang out at institutions and colleges. So that was the easy part. I was in New Jersey at the time. And secondly, what makes it really easy is there's 32 state and community colleges alone in New Jersey, and New Jersey is a very small state. So you could ostensibly service college professors at all 32 universities and schools with one central office. And the best way to gender them is to basically make yourself known and offer a lot of free advice and seminars, which is what I did early on. And I just stuck around and friended people and went to the cafeteria and had coffee with them on breaks. And I have a deep curiosity, so I could be interested really about any topic, just about. And I would just talk to them about what they did and learn. And I just stuck around. The more people saw me, the more they started asking me, hey, what do you think about the market? Or what do you think about annuities? Or so it just became a quid pro quo that grew into a practice that has about 5,000 professors that we service one way or the other.
Oh wow. Okay. And for this particular niche and this type of client, what are their biggest concerns? Are they different than, say an ultra high net worth client or, some other industry?
The interesting thing is, a lot of times an ultra high net worth client doesn't have a lot of money, oddly. It's tied
They
up
have
in,
assets, yeah.
yeah, it's tied up in all kinds of hard assets or other things. The thing about college professors is that all their money is typically liquid, usually in their retirement plans. And they're forced in the state systems to save a lot of money, and they work a long time at the same job. So they save a lot of money. The average college professor in New Jersey retires with a couple of $1 million, which most people wouldn't think. So really, it's about helping them understand money, because you don't become a college professor because you're focused on money. So the really big thing is very basic, simple words and explanation around monetary issues and money and risk, insurance, and other things that help them plan for their life.
Awesome. And is there a certain age or period in life that you go after college professors? Like if they're near retirement?
That's the one thing about college professors. A lot of them never retire. So you can't really target retirement, but really around 50, when they've saved a lot of money and they're into their higher earning years and they're putting a lot of money away in pensions and retirement plan, around when kids are getting out of college and they could divert those monies into savings. That's really when we targeted working with professors. So we were looking for like a 20-year work history. Sometimes you don't know date of birth, but you could look at how many years they had been in service at the university or the school. And that was really our target, 50 to 55. And some of those people that I started working with in 1990 are still working today.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I have 88-year-old clients that are still teaching full time.
Wow. I feel like that's maybe a secret to longevity. Their brains are still
Yes.
super, super sharp.
And they love what they do, which I'd say
Yeah.
is the bigger secret.
Mm.
I think doing what you love contributes to a long life.
Yeah. Um, that's that's awesome. Any really fun subjects or characters that you work with? I know
Oh, God, yeah. I'd say the most interesting thing is these teachers get a lot of money put away for them, and they put away a lot of their money for their retirement plan. And that was a decision they made on day one when walking into the university. So when I'm meeting with them, sometimes 30 or 40 years later for the first time to talk about their retirement account, I've literally had clients or prospects say, wait a minute, this $2 million is my money. I thought it was a life insurance benefit. I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. And I
wow.
explained to this person that they have $2 million that's there. They're dumbfounded. I've had people retire the next day because they had no concept. Because nothing against TI Craft, but they're servicing thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. They're not always talking to every one of these people. So This person has been putting money away for 40 years, has never touched it, has never looked at his statement, doesn't even open his statements ever. They just get thrown in a drawer somewhere. And now all of a sudden finds out that he has $2 million. So I've had people say, I thought I had to pay that money back to the college. Yeah. So we get lots of interesting characters for sure. Lots of
Wow.
interesting stories.
Okay. So oftentimes the biggest help you give them is telling them how much money they actually have.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That might be unique to the professor space. I've talked
Definitely.
to a lot of financial advisors servicing a lot of different industries, and that's a first. So that is very very unique
Yeah.
and kind
It's
of
fun.
refreshing as well.
Yeah. It's very refreshing. Yeah.
Uh,
Also,
yeah.
it's a very, for advisors looking to potentially get into this practice, it's a pretty recession proof practice. I mean, teachers are tenured, they don't get laid off. I've never had a
Mm,
teacher lose their job.
mhm,
So when other clients were going through, I could go all the way back, but 96, 2000 to 2002, these people are still saving 10, 15% of their income every year. So all that flow is still going into the retirement accounts.
mm.
And their salary isn't being cut ever. I mean, sometimes they don't get a lot of raises, but their salaries aren't ever cut, no matter how bad the economy is. So it's been a very recession proof practice.
I would think even counterindicative to like a downturn because I graduated college 2008 and I looked at the job market and I was like, grad school it is.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
There's never been a bad time for us, for our clients, is like work wise.
mhm,
And
yeah.
certainly that's not been the case in lots of other industries.
Mhm. So it sounds like the majority of your clients are college professors or in that vein, and then you work with some ultra high net worth clients as well.
You'd be surprised at universities that there are ultra high net worth clients,
Yeah.
because schools have medical schools. So you've got neurosurgeons and orthopedic surgeons and brain surgeons. You've got people that teach, but also have outside practices in law and in medical. So we have clients that are worth, 15 million to $30 million that we meet through the universities,
Oh wow. Okay.
or also inheritance. Sometimes
Hmm.
you're an ultra high net worth client because you inherited your money.
Mm.
And you'd be surprised how many very wealthy parents' kids go into altruistic jobs. It's almost a guilt about the money. So they go into service jobs. And so we find a lot of those
Mm.
people in colleges.
Okay. So do you meet them basically the same way that you meet the college
Yeah.
professors?
Yeah. On
Yeah.
campus through referrals or at seminars that we're giving.
Hmm. What? And this is a bit off topic, but what's your opinion on the university system? And I mean, it's like at least five times the cost of what it was 15 years ago when I went.
Yeah, it's an institution. And lots of institutions get too caught up in being an institution and forget the original mission. And
Hmm.
institutions are hard to turn as well. They're like, Titanic. It's
Yeah.
very hard to change what's taught. It's very hard to bring new programming in there. It's become an interesting place to be. I think it was a lot different 30 years ago when I started, for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. It's I don't know. Like we have interns and young hires who have just an obscene amount of student loan debt for you know a very modest degree, like a
Yeah,
business degree, and I'm just like, what?
yeah,
It's absurd.
it's a big problem for sure. And it's
Yeah.
about to become a bigger problem because we're going to see how much student loan debt, when it has to be paid, is going to impact the economy. So we're going to see, it just started this month, last month, but it's going to be a big drag on the economy for sure.
Awesome. So let's dive into um ESG. So why is ESG investing important, and why do you guys put a big focus on it?
I mean, it all comes down to whether you believe that the world has unlimited resources or finite resources. And if you believe that the world has finite resources, then how the use of those resources will impact a company is important data to know. And that's what ESG is. It's a data set. As opposed to what it's being talked about in public these days as woke capitalism or other things, what is the truth is that ESG has no decisive vote on what you buy or don't buy. You can run a complete fossil fuel portfolio and use ESG data to pick the best fossil fuel companies. ESG data is just data about how the world, environmental factors, social factors, and governance factors are affecting the company that you invest in. And it's material to stock price. And if you stick to that definition, it's critical that you have all the data you can possibly have on companies you're investing in. And anyone that would say that they don't want data on the companies that they're investing in, it's an ignorant statement. Like, you can do whatever you want once you have the data, but to say that you don't want to even look at data about how external factors are potentially impacting a company you're investing with makes absolutely no sense. It's like saying I would rather drive around in a car with my old map rather than use the GPS, because I think that's woke driving and I don't want all that additional information. I think then I might choose the wrong path with my car. So that's really the first and most important thing. Secondly, we came at this because we were concerned about climate change. And we believe 10 years ago, and more strongly than ever today, that physical risk was going to impact the capital markets in a way that the capital markets was grossly underpricing. And that we would see that risk in reinsurance companies first as they start to leave states. And I wrote about this years ago in a paper called The Great Repricing, that we would see the risk first be exhibited in reinsurance companies, then municipal bond ratings, then real estate prices, then mortgages, and ultimately supply chains of companies that were at risk due to flooding or droughts or extreme heat. And we're seeing all that now, and it is affecting pricing, and it is affecting the capital markets. And I would say this, it's irrelevant whether you think climate change is man-made or not. That's not even the argument that I ever have with anyone. Is it affecting pricing that we are seeing warmer temperatures? Yes. The cause, you can argue about the cause, and you can argue about what you want to do about the cause, and you can talk about divestment versus engagement and all those things, but that's not the subject of what we're concerned with. We're concerned with the risk that's impacting the companies that our clients potentially invest in. And that's our major focus, is how to reduce that risk or invest in opportunities through things like what the IRA bill is funding, and that it's funneling $1 trillion into areas of the market that we think our clients should be exposed to. Because if you're pre-funding an industry with $1 trillion, which is more money than any government has ever spent on anything in the entire history of the world, why wouldn't you want to come in behind that funding to make money? Some of those industries will become mega industries.
Mm-hmm. So it's ESG investing, even more so than factoring in the fate of the planet, is just a smarter way to look at the market as a whole, and factor in potentially unconsidered aspects.
I would say that I would just caveat and say there is no such thing as ESG investing. It would be like saying that there's compliance investing or governance. What
Mhm.
ESG is additional data that is material to the stock price of a company.
Okay.
And you need to be looking at that data. And the truth is that every large asset manager, regardless of what they're saying publicly, is looking at those data sets. Moody's and MSCI and Sustainalytics and all these companies aren't becoming billion-dollar companies because no one's buying the data. Everyone's buying the data, and they're looking at it to make decisions about companies that they're buying or selling. But ESG is not prescriptive. It does not tell you what industry to buy or not buy. ESG data is universal. You can get ESG data on every single company. And if you use it correctly and don't just use the scoring methodology of it, and you actually dive into the data, it could keep you from buying companies like PG&E, which went bankrupt in California because of causing fires in Northern California. They were publicly disclosing that data for years, that their risk of fires was off the chart compared to any other utility. So right there is the best example I could come up with of, if you were looking at the data, you avoided owning PG&E. If you were ignoring the data, you potentially own PG&E. Again, it's just data, but
Mhm.
we can debate that at a at a political convention or something.
No, I enjoy that description of ESG investing. It's just data. It's not, you know, it's not woke investing.
Yeah.
Are there um are there any green flags or red flags that you're seeing in the market right now?
Yeah, I mean, we've been writing for 2 years now about risk in real estate market. So we were very early on exiting all real estate exposure, except for multi-family property. But we exited all corporate real estate years ago. And we think that the market is grossly underestimating the domino effect of those office buildings being underwater as long as yields maintain this high. And banks are going to be in trouble between that and interest rates. The second thing is we've also been writing for 2 years that inflation is not transitory, that inflation is pricing into the market and is going to be way stickier with unemployment so low and wage pressure from unions renegotiating contracts. We are not near the end of the cycle. The market keeps underestimating how committed the Fed is to fighting inflation and how sticky inflation is. I think this week and last week, we saw two great indications that are continuingly right about that thesis, and the market is continually wrong about that thesis. It's going to hurt earnings. You can't have interest rates at 5.5%, and you can't have borrowing rates at 6 to 9% when these companies are borrowing at 3. Over 40% of companies in the S&P 500 are not revenue positive right now because of debt financing. And it's going to, I mean, we believe there'll be a correction in pricing in the market, and interest rates will be higher for longer.
Does that lead us into a significant recession?
We think so. And I mean, we're not alone now. I think Gunlock and other people certainly agree with us that there's really no way to avoid a hard landing. I mean, the market was projecting up until very recently rate cuts this year. Then it pushed it out into early next year. I mean, the Fed has clearly said that they don't see reductions until maybe the far end of 24. And I think with this week's numbers, that's pushed out even further now. So these companies that have to refinance debt that they got at 3%, some of those companies are refinancing those debts at 9%. On buildings, if you were financing $15 million of debt on a building, and I'm going small, right now, you're getting offered maybe 5 or 6 million of that 15 million to refinance without personal guarantees, and no one's going to personally guarantee building and office real estate. So those buildings are all going to get turned into the banks in the next 24 months.
Oh wow. Awesome. Well, not awesome.
Not awesome. No, so
Well,
we've been staying very short on the yield curve. 2 to 3 year bonds is the farthest.
yeah.
Holding cash, and that has been working very well.
Hmm. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. That was some great insight. I do want to touch on your TV show and your book. Can you tell us about those two things?
Yeah, so on fintech.tv, fintech, fintech.tv, I host two TV shows, one called The Impact, one called The Great Repricing on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. And both of those shows cover things around impact investing, whether it's climate change or EV vehicles or sustainable fashion or food or biodiversity or ag. It covers a wide range of topics and short 12-minute clips to just educate people on what's happening in those spaces. The Great Repricing touches on repricing risk in the capital markets due to climate change. The book is called Beyond Success, Redefining the Meaning of Prosperity. And it's really about that having more and more and more money doesn't ever make anyone feel successful. That's an inner journey that you have to deal with. Not that making more and more money isn't nice and fun, but as Anthony Robbins has said, he's worked with the richest people in the world, and most of them are miserable. So, something to be said there.
Yeah. Amen. Um, great. And then your book as well, Beyond Success.
Yeah, it's available through Amazon. Again, Beyond Success, Redefining the Meaning of Prosperity. And it is definitely worth reading. I'll leave it at that, but it's about, I'll sum it up in one sentence. We define success as when your unique creative expression is aligned in service to the world. That's when you feel successful. Doesn't mean you can't make a lot of money, but that success has to come from how you feel inside.
I'm reading a book called The Way of the Superior Man, and he
I
had a
know.
very interesting take on that. He said, one of our biggest goals, if not the biggest goal, is to die completely. When you die, you feel like you left it all out there
Yeah,
and did everything that you could. And that just like, hit me like a ton of bricks.
I'm working
Yeah.
on it.
Awesome. And I know that we're gonna close out here soon. We're in the middle of a particularly, ugly situation in the world. Do you have any healing words for the world right now?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the same message in the book. If we think that we could find peace by changing the outside world, we're wrong. We have to find peace within, and then we exude peace into the world. But the whole world is under this false belief that gathering stuff outside of yourself is what will bring you peace. That never works. It's never worked. It's what every religion has tried to teach us. We need to understand that peace is found within, and then you act with peace outwardly. And that's the only thing that's going to help change this world.
Amen. Jeff, where can our audience find out more about you?
Gittermanwealth.com. Uh, and if you're an advisor and you want to look at some of the work we're doing, gittermanasset.com.
Great. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and my audience today. Could have asked you questions for the rest of the afternoon. You're a wealth of knowledge, my friend.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. All right, and all listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next time. Keep on growing out there, everybody.